Hallo 1102. Okay, so this is a PowerPoint lecture for you to watch, and this is going to be basically some slides over the grammatical points from this chapter. Some of them we've already gone over, so I'm not going to stress them too much, but I will hit a few points. This is talking about the relative clauses and pronouns. We also have the comparative and superlative, and also what we call da and wo compounds, and then as well as a couple examples of present perfect, as well as the simple past forms of haben and sein. So it's about 20 slides or so. I'm going to try to get it done in about 20 minutes for you. I will include a couple of additional exercises within this recording. They will be from the textbook, and also you'll have your connect exercise. Excuse me. All right, you'll have your connect exercise that's due Monday. So this should help you prepare for all that, because some of these examples you've already been exposed to, but some of them will be somewhat new to you. So going through the relative clauses and pronouns, if you were in class Tuesday and Wednesday, you already have these 5 bullet points. They're from the handout that I gave you. It just going over the relative clauses and pronouns. Just one thing that I want to stress is that when you do separate the first clause with the relative clause, remember that it has to be separated by a comma. And just to think of that relative pronoun as the English equivalent of who, whom, which, or that. Okay? The first clause, okay, contains what is called an antecedent. Okay, and this is going to determine what the gender is of the relative pronoun. Is it going to be masculine, feminine, neuter, or even plural? Okay, now that relative pronoun will also have a specific case depending on what function it has in that clause. Okay, this keeps bugging me, so I'm going to go back to that. Excuse me. Okay. For example, we have 3 examples here, right? Das ist der Mann, der hier war. Das ist der Mann, den Sie gesehen haben. And Nummer 3, das ist der Mann, dem Sie ein Buch geschenkt haben. Okay, so we have 3 examples. Notice the antecedent is going to be der Mann, okay, from each of those. And we have our 3, we have subject being the first one. Das ist der Mann, der, all right? Number 2 would be the accusative direct object. Das ist der Mann, den Sie gesehen haben. And then the third one would be an example of the masculine being in the dative. Okay, das ist der Mann, dem Sie ein Buch geschenkt haben. Okay? Going through these somewhat quickly, but those show the different uses of the masculine, depending on what role it's playing in that relative clause. So this little table here, you're already familiar with these except for the plural in the dative. Notice that one in the bottom right hand corner. Okay, it is denen. Okay, and I'll show you an example on the next slide here. Okay, so we have these 4. Zum Beispiel, der junge Mann, der mich angerufen hat, ist Lindas Bruder. Okay, so the der in that is the relative pronoun. If you can guess what function that plays, that will be your brief little task right now. The second one, der junge Mann, den ich angerufen habe, ist Lindas Bruder. Okay, so now it becomes den. So what function does it play now? Third one, die junge Frau, die mich angerufen hat, ist Lindas Schwester. Same task for the relative pronoun. What function does it play? And then also number 4, die Leute, denen ich helfe, sind unsere Nachbarn. Okay, so looking at the first one, der junge Mann, der mich angerufen hat, ist Lindas Bruder. It would be who, or the subject. Okay, because he is the one who has called me. In the second one, he is the direct object because den ich angerufen habe, I'm the one doing the calling to him. Third one, die mich angerufen hat, is referring to die Frau, the woman who called me, is Linda's sister. And then the last one we have a dative plural, and we do so because of that verb helfe. Remember, the verb helfen, to help, is a dative verb. Okay? And I stress that again there in the note. Okay, like I said, some of these can be a little bit tricky, okay? And I really don't want you to stress too much, but there are some tricks, you know, in case you need to figure out what function, you know, is it subject, accusative, direct object, or the dative, indirect object, okay? You may need to analyze that relative clause to see which elements already exist to narrow down your choice, kind of like how I did in class with das ist die Frau, der ich eine Blume gegeben habe. That's the woman whom I gave a flower to. Okay, so here we have wo ist das Kind? Ich diesen Ball gegeben habe. Wo ist die Kellnerin? Mir dieses Bier serviert hat. Und wo ist der Mann? Sein Auto hier gelassen hat. So go ahead and take a couple moments, see if you can figure out what the relative pronouns are supposed to be for each of these. Okay, it's pretty clear in the first one, wo ist das Kind? Okay, so it's referring to das Kind, so we know it's going to be neuter. Number 2, wo ist die Kellnerin? That antecedent is feminine, die Kellnerin, so we know it's going to be feminine. And the third one, wo ist der Mann? We know it will be masculine. Okay, so the first one, wo ist das Kind, dem ich diesen Ball gegeben habe? Okay, where is the child whom I have given the ball to? Okay, we have ich, that takes care of our nominative. Diesen Ball, Ball is masculine, and it's triggered by diesen. If you ever you see diesen or den or einen, you know that that object is masculine, and that accounts for the accusative, meaning the only other option would be dative. Wo ist die Kellnerin, die mir dieses Bier serviert hat? Okay, again, die, she is the one serving me. We have mir, that's the dative. Dieses Bier is the accusative, so it has to be nominative die. Und wo ist der Mann, der sein Auto hier gelassen hat? Okay, where is the man who left his car here? Okay, this, if you're really having issues, you know, you could always rewrite that clause, and I'm kind of looking at wo ist das Kind, dem ich diesen Ball gegeben habe. You know, this is the part that you could almost rewrite if you wanted to. Oh, excuse me, I already jumped ahead there. And actually, I do have to apologize for a brief typo. When I uploaded this PowerPoint, these two words here are not aligned correctly. The subject should be directly above ich, direct object should be above diesen Ball. Okay, so if I were to rewrite that, ich habe Kind diesen Ball gegeben, you could rewrite it as so, just to try to figure out what that relative pronoun is supposed to be. Like I said, this is maybe a little bit extreme if you're trying to figure out, but if you really want to break it down, this would be a good way and good method to do so. Okay, like I said though, once you see the pattern and how these function, it's not too bad. Also, we have relative pronouns as objects of a preposition. Okay, so I'm gonna go down here to the last two bullet points. Das ist der alte Mann, and sie hat mit dem Mann gearbeitet. Okay, so we're already seeing this preposition mit, right? Alright, so das ist der alte Mann, mit dem sie gearbeitet haben. So just like the exercises that we worked on, this is just another example of those. So, some additional ones we have, das ist die Bank, ich arbeite bei der Bank, and then we make it, das ist die Bank, bei der ich arbeite. Okay, or das ist der Zug nach Stuttgart, ich fahre mit dem Zug. Das ist der Zug nach Stuttgart, mit dem ich fahre. Or that could also be rewritten as das ist der Zug, mit dem ich nach Stuttgart fahre. So chances are good if you do see that preposition in the sentence and you need to include that, well, this is going to precede now the relative pronoun. Okay, and actually, if we go to let's see here. If you go to Seite 259 in your book, okay, this is going to be your first task, okay, and go ahead and write these sentences out. That you don't have to do it right now, but this is going to be one of your tasks, okay. This will be due on Monday. So this is Übung 2, Risiko, Seite 259. So what you have here, you have this list of answers, okay, and you have on the left, and then on the right you have these sentences, so they're obviously going to match up, alright, but what you need to do is create a question out of these. So it's a little bit tricky, okay, so let's look at the model here. Diesen Kontinent hat Columbus entdeckt. Diesen Kontinent hat Columbus entdeckt. So if you were to see that, okay, the answer is America, okay, so what you would have to do is create a question, alright, wie heißt der Kontinent, den Columbus entdeckt hat, alright, so a little bit tricky on this, okay, because we have diesen Kontinent, alright, or let's look at B. I'll do B with you together. Diese Insel sieht man von New York. Diese Insel sieht man von New York. Alright? And if we look at our answers over here, we know that Nummer 7, Ellis. It's Ellis Island. Ellis Insel. Yeah? So, if we were to create a question on that, we would start it with wie heißt. So, wie heißt die Insel, die man von New York sieht. Okay? So, you're not only going to create a question, but you're going to create a question that has a relative clause and a pronoun included in that. So, wie heißt die Insel, die man von New York sieht? Notice too that there are some in here, for example, über dieses or von diesem or auf diesem, okay, that have the prepositions in there. So you will have to create some that have prepositions. Okay? Gut. So, going back to the PowerPoint, alright. And this is what we talked about a little bit yesterday. So like I said, I'm not going to stress too much on this. This is the comparative form. We know that we take the adjective schnell, okay, and then what we're going to do is add an er to that. So schnell would become schneller, yeah, and we have, excuse me one second, if you're going to be comparing two objects, right, you're also going to integrate the word als, meaning than, so faster than, bigger than, smaller than, etc. So das ist das Auto, Entschuldigung, das Auto ist schneller als das Fahrrad. Right? The car is faster than the bicycle. Or ich bin schneller als du. I'm faster than you. Okay? And as we went through in class, if you have most, and I will stress that most because there are some exceptions, most one-syllable words that do contain a vowel, all right, you add an umlaut to their comparative form. So lang becomes länger, oft becomes öfter, jung becomes jünger. Okay, a two-syllable version with this would be the word gesund. Okay, healthy, gesünder, healthier. All right, and then if you have adjectives that end in an el, like dunkel, or ending in er, like teuer, all right, you drop that e. Okay, so it becomes dunkler instead of dunkeler, dunkler and teurer. Okay, those are the two most common that do end with those suffixes. And we also have the irregular forms, right? Hoch, höher, viel, mehr, gut, besser, gern, lieber. Okay, so gut, besser. Remember, it's not good, gooder. Gut, besser, good, better. Okay, and more examples of those are in the book, of course. If you want to look at pages 260 and 261, those show a lot of those in there, and they also show the superlative forms, which we'll get to in the next couple slides. So And also we have these examples. So not only do we have the one form schneller als, but when it becomes an adjective, okay, it's not so much in the it is still in the comparative form, but when it follows a definite article. Zum Beispiel, dieses Zimmer ist groß. So this room is big. Dieses Zimmer ist groß. Aber ich möchte das größere Zimmer. I would like the larger room. Okay? So we have to have that adjective ending there, the E, after we make it into the comparative form. So it goes from groß to größer to das größere Zimmer. Okay? And then down below, so that's how it's going to look for the nominative case. Alright? The accusative case is pretty much going to be the exact same for any der, die, das word, except the der in the accusative is going to change, of course, to den in the accusative. So it's going to be ich möchte den schnelleren Wagen. I would like the faster car. Okay? Den schnelleren Wagen. Okay? Going now to the superlative. And if you recall doing your dates, alright, with the ordinal numbers, okay, that same concept comes into play here. So we have these examples: schnell, schneller, am schnellsten. So the am sten, okay, just like you have numbers 20 and above, 20, am 20sten. So on the 20th. Okay, it's the same concept. Okay, if you look down at the third bullet point, if adjectives or adverbs end in a D, alright, or a T, or an S sound, or a vowel, we integrate an E before that sten suffix. Okay, zum Beispiel neu, alright, new, ends in a vowel. So here we have neu, comparative form becomes neuer, and the superlative becomes am neuesten. Okay, another example for an adjective would be alt. Okay, ends in a T, alt, älter, am ältesten, or with an S sound, heiß, heiß, heißer, am heißesten. Okay, so there are more examples of that on page 260 at the bottom. Okay, and if you do have those one syllable words with the vowel that add an umlaut in its comparative form, the superlative form also gets that umlaut. Zum Beispiel warm, wärmer, am wärmsten. Okay. Oh, one little side note. The previous example, when you add an E, okay, there is one exception. There always is, and that would be the adjective groß, or tall or big. Groß, größer. Okay, so that ends in an S sound. You do not add an E in its superlative form. So groß, größer, am größten. Okay. Crazy language, I know. Okay, and just like the comparative form, when these follow when they follow a definite article or when they precede a noun, okay, you have to have the ending there. Okay, so looking down at the fourth bullet point, BMW ist der schnellste Wagen. Okay, der schnellste. Okay, so it's not going to be the am sten. Okay, it's not. It's because that way we would just say it's the fastest, but I want to say it's the fastest car, so it's going to change a little bit. This is der schnellste Wagen. Okay, so that would be a nominative example, and if we have a accusative example with the masculine, ich fahre den schnellsten Wagen. Okay, pretty much everything else stays the same though with the nominative and accusative for the other cases, or the other genders, excuse me. Okay. And for your second task, you're going to write out Übung 5, Geographie und Geschichte. Das ist auf Seite 262. Yeah? And we'll go to the book here to show you. You're going to be doing this one, okay? Geographie und Geschichte. You also write those out and turn it in. So what these do is these give you, in 1 through 9 here, they give you comparative forms, okay, comparing different locations. For example, Modell: Das Tal des Todes liegt tiefer als das Kaspische Meer. Das Tal des Todes liegt tiefer als das Kaspische Meer. So Death Valley, okay, lies deeper than the Caspian Sea. All right? So it gives that scenario, and then on the right here, you need to find something that exceeds that, or the superlative of that. So Death Valley, 86 meters below sea level. Caspian Sea, 28 meters below sea level. Well, the Dead Sea, das Tote Meer, liegt am tiefsten. So you're going to use the adjective given, tiefer, okay, and then also the verb, liegt, in this instance. It's not going to be the same for all of them, all right? And you're going to find the correct one over here. So let's look at the first one. In Rom ist es im Sommer heißer als in München. In Rom ist es im Sommer heißer als in München. Okay, so in Rome, it's hotter in the summer than in Munich. All right, well, it's 25 degrees, 25.6 degrees Celsius versus 17.2. I'm looking at degrees here, and I would have to go with Aten, okay, selection A at 27.6, 27,6 Grad Celsius. So, in Rom ist es im Sommer heißer als in München. In Aten ist es im Sommer am heißesten. Okay? In Aten ist es im Sommer am heißesten would be your answer. Excellent. So that is your second task to work on. Okay? Going back to the PowerPoint here. Next version is going to be the Da compounds. Okay? And these exercises are actually going to be in your Connect assignment. Okay, I've already used examples of these, the Da compounds and also the Vo compounds. You may or may not have noticed. Okay, so basically all you're doing is you're replacing an object with this thing called a Da compound. It's the word Da, and you connect it to a preposition. All right, it's very simple. For example, on the left here we have Ich fahre mit dem Rad zur Uni. So I ride my bike to the university. Ich fahre mit dem Rad zur Uni. If I want to change that, Ich fahre damit zur Uni. Ich fahre damit zur Uni. Ja? Or wir sind nach unserer Vorlesung ins Kino gegangen. Okay, we went to the movies after our lecture. Wir sind danach ins Kino gegangen. We went to the movies after it. Okay? Very simple. You're going to use the preposition that's provided, okay, in the sentence. So there's your clue right there for what you're supposed to use. And all you're doing is you're adding the word da in front of it. Okay, there's a list of these on 263. Okay, under 7.3. Dadurch, dafür, dagegen, dahinter. So these are all, they include both accusative and dative prepositions. Okay, so your task is to memorize that list. Alright, if a vowel, or excuse me, if a preposition starts with a vowel, okay, so aus, in, an, auf, okay, you integrate an R in between where the da goes. Okay, so daraus, darauf, darin, darunter, darüber, okay? So you can look at the list, and actually on 263 there are 16 examples there. The whole list on the right has all, well, includes most of them that have the R integrated. Okay? And note that da compounds are for objects only, not for people. Okay? So, ich gehe mit meinem Bruder ins Kino. Ich gehe mit ihm ins Kino. Okay? You wouldn't want to say ich gehe damit ins Kino unless you're referring to your brother as it. I'm going with it to the movies. Now, nicht gut. Ja? Ich gehe mit ihm ins Kino. Okay? Vo compounds. Okay, there is a long list here of stuff. It's basically the same concept, except we're using these for questions instead of answers. Okay? So I'm going to give you the first three examples there. Alright? And these are when they're used for people. It's the same concept as with the da compounds. You don't use da compounds for people. So if I wanted to ask, whom are you waiting for? Auf wen wartest du? Whom are you thinking of? An wen denkst du? And whom are you talking about? Von wem erzählst du? Okay? If I weren't talking about people, what are you waiting for? I would change that to worauf wartest du? What are you thinking about? Woran denkst du? And what are you talking about? Wovon erzählst du? Okay, pretty straightforward. This page I'm not going to get into a whole lot because I don't think we really need to worry about indirect questions, but you can review that at your own on your own if you'd like. Okay, like I said, all the exercises for the da and vo compounds are already in the connect exercise. A note on a few different verbs in the perfect tense. We've worked with the perfect tense now for a while. Remember, you start with the auxiliary verb haben or sein, depending on what type of verb it is, and then you add the past participle of the verb at the end of the sentence or the clause. Okay, there are a group of mixed verbs that you need to memorize. Okay, and they're mixed because they have traits, characteristics of both regular and irregular verbs. They all start with the g, all right, but they all end in a t, like a regular verb, but they have irregular qualities because they have a vowel stem change. Okay, they're quite simple. They all kind of rhyme in a sense. So we have bringen, denken, kennen, nennen, rennen, wissen. Bringen hat gebracht, denken hat gedacht, kennen hat gekannt, nennen hat genannt, rennen ist gerannt, wissen hat gewusst. Okay, notice the rennen ist gerannt, run, ran. Okay, this uses the auxiliary sein because running. Okay, you're probably running from point A to point B. All right, excellent. And the last bit is the simple past, and again, you've been exposed to some of these already, but this is just to for review for you. You'll need to know the simple past forms of haben and sein. Okay, most commonly used for the simple past are those verbs haben and sein, and also the modal verbs. We don't need to know the modal verbs right now. Zum Beispiel, ich bin heute zu Hause would be a present tense. The past tense would be ich war gestern zu Hause. All right, or heute habe ich eine Prüfung. Gestern hatte ich eine Prüfung. Okay, and then showing an example of the modal verb können. Ich kann heute Abend nicht ins Kino versus ich konnte gestern Abend nicht ins Kino. Okay, and noticing here for haben, ich hatte, du hattest, sie hatten, er, sie, es hatte, wir hatten, ihr hattet, sie hatten. Notice first person and third person, ich and er, sie, es are all the same. Hatte, ich hatte und er, sie, es hatte. And simple past of the verb sein, ich war, du warst, sie waren, er, sie, es war, wir waren, ihr wart und sie waren. Same first and third persons are the same. Okay? So, remember to do your tasks. That would be Übung 5. Ja, Übung 5, Geografie und Geschichte, und Übung 2, Risiko. Okay? So, examples of relative pronouns and clauses and the comparative and superlative. You'll have also your connect exercise, and I'm also going to be giving you a listening comprehension uploading in Moodle. Okay? And I will see you on Monday. Schönes Wochenende. Dankeschön.